that you've learned through this process of being in this nonprofit and providing a home for women that need it that you didn't, that you've learned recently about it, about the work?
Well, I can tell you that it's hard work. It's um, often painful work in the sense that emotionally there's so much that the women bring. There's so many stories. There's the things that they share, the things that they've gone through. And I think that, you carry a burden for them. And so that's something that I'm, learning is just really just how to be there for them and support them, but at the same time, not take all of that home with me
Right.
every day. But it's the work is also the most rewarding. It's
Mhm.
fulfilling when you get to be the hands and feet of Jesus, because truly,
Definitely.
I don't know that any, including myself, but every woman volunteer or staff in our organization, they are pouring out their hearts because they're doing it for the Lord.
Mhm.
And I think that makes it's a lot different than just going to work for a paycheck.
Yeah,
And some do get paid, and we want them to have a sustainable living wage, right? So that they
definitely.
can do this work that God's called them to do. But
Yeah.
it is it is so rewarding, and in just the little moments, just there's
Mhm.
so many parts of your day that you just walk away and you just really see the
Mhm.
hand of God or the breath of God, and it's
Yeah,
just
it's
yeah,
beautiful.
it's beautiful.
Take me back to, you mentioned it very briefly about the time you were at stay-at-home mom, and then now you are moving more in this space of, like, working all the time. There are probably so many women that I come into that are stay-at-home moms, they want to start working again, they don't know how to get out of that space. They feel like life is over, like, "This is just my life," right?
Mhm.
If you could speak to the stay-at-home moms about, going after your dreams, what advice do you have for them?
It's a hard question. I think that I would say that just taking it, babe, it's a step at a time. In walking with the Lord over time, over this period, I didn't just one day wake up and start this.
Mhm.
It was something that I was driving down the road thinking about all the time.
Yeah.
I didn't have that picture in
Mhm.
my mind. I would have never dreamt that it looked the way it does even today.
Yeah.
But I just took every step and I walked and just said, "What next? What next?"
That's
And there were
good.
times when it got scary
Mhm.
and I had to make that decision. Am I going to take this step forward? I would say to, in that I am called.
Mhm.
I know that I am called, but when I actually affirm that to myself, or even when God says, well, well, you can't say no
Yeah.
if you're called. So are you willing to trust me? And I think that's one of the things that is hard for all of us when we look at something that the unknown is,
Yeah.
how do I trust him in what that's going to look like?
Yeah.
And it is hard because there have been times in my journaling in the past that in a question it would say, "Do you trust God?" And I remember saying, "No,
Yeah.
I don't think I do. I love you. I
Mhm.
want to trust you, but I don't really trust you because I wanna win a pink Cadillac someday, and I don't have it yet, and I don't know if you want me to have it."
Right.
So
Right.
it
That's a
was
real
yeah,
feeling.
so it was
Yes.
does God want what I want? And I
Right.
think that it comes
Mm.
where you learn that really he knows what you need, and he
Yes.
knows where you're gonna be most fulfilled, and sometimes you can't see that.
Ooh, that's good. That is so good. Okay. So, taking me to my next question, because you just made it very difficult just now. I'm like, hold up. Okay. But I want to really dive more into this space because your faith life and your faith journey is so significant to you. But then I hear there were times where you were, I wouldn't say hesitant, but there's times where, like you said, we don't believe in God. We don't have the faith that we think that we have. And I think it's interesting when you talk to believers who, um, say one thing, but they contradict in the next sentence by saying, "But I don't know," and this and that. And
Mhm.
it's like, okay, but do you really believe God? Right. And so, were you always this faithful in your journey?
No. I think that when I think about a relationship with the Lord, it is a relationship, and you're
Yeah.
having conversations with him
Mhm.
about, I don't know if I want to do that,
Right.
or what does that look like, or that's too scary,
Mhm.
or and I think that's what our loving father would do. If you
Yeah.
think about a conversation with a father to a daughter,
Mhm.
and we are daughters of the king,
Yeah.
so he's gonna be understanding, he's gonna be compassionate, he's
Yeah.
gonna kind of push you along and say, get on that bike and you can do it. You might fall a couple times,
Right.
and okay, the band-aids are close by, you might get bloody, but
Yeah.
I know you're gonna ride that bike. And so I think that's really what our faith walk is about. It's a
Mhm.
relationship, and I think sometimes people who are that don't have that faith
Yeah.
and are wondering on the outside, what
Mhm.
is that contradictory? I
Right.
think that it's normal.
Mhm.
We are it's normal for us to be, we walk in our flesh, so
Right.
it's normal for us to kind of
To have, like, doubt.
yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I think that's good because, I think I guess it's the label that comes with Christianity
Mhm,
that, like, okay, if you are a believer, like, why do you doubt or why do you do this? And it's like all of these just like preconceived notions, but I love that you mentioned that it's a relationship and just like any relationship or any marriage that you're in, don't you have, you know, disagreements with your children and your spouse? Like
mhm,
that's very normal. And so there are times where you have disagreements with God, and I know I did a year ago. I was mad at him completely
mhm,
because I was not in agreement with where he had me, and that was a real feeling. Um but I love that you are transparent with that because I think it's important for people to hear, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're in nonprofit work, being a leader in the things that you do comes with a weight. And I think that your organization is a very intimate and significant impact.
mhm,
And I like applaud you for taking leadership and saying, you know what, I'm going to do this. It's going to come with hard work and it's not going to be easy.
mhm,
Um, but it's so easy, right, to align yourself with your work, like to say, like, this is who I am, this is
mhm,
what I do. But the question that many people struggle with, right,
mhm,
is when you ask them, like, who are you
mhm,
outside of that?
mhm,
Some people say, I'm a mom. And that's very true, like, you are,
mhm,
and or for me, it's like, I'm a TV host, this is what I do,
mhm,
like, when people say, "Tell me what you do, tell me who you are," immediately we say, "This is what I do," but,
mhm,
like, really, like, who are you, and how do you answer that? And how do you maneuver in life with who you are and who God has called you to be versus what you do? Now, I think this question is very interesting
mhm,
because a lot of people say, well, what I do is who I am.
mhm.
And there's nothing wrong with that. By the way, there's no right answer to this question.
Yeah, I
I'm
know.
just always like intrigued by like what people say. I know for some people it was like, okay, well, I was a shadow for so long. So I want people to know like this is who I am. But for Angie, if you had to answer that question, who are you?
Well, can I say one thing about a
Yes.
comment that you made? I think that there's been times in my life where I've uh that question has been hard. Of course, when you're a stay-at-home mom and
Mhm.
someone says what you're dressed up out with your girlfriends, and your girlfriend, works, and or she's a TV host or
Yeah.
something, and there you say, "Oh, nothing. I don't do, what do you do? Nothing."
Mm-hmm.
Because that's how you feel in that
Mm-hmm.
moment. So I've been there,
Mm-hmm.
and then you feel conflicted because you get to stay home,
Yeah.
right? You're conflicted there.
Right.
And I think now, because maybe I've been there, I almost dread the question of what do you do? Because I feel like to say founder and executive director, it sounds like this
Mhm.
big thing, and I know it is because it's a lot of hard work, but
Right.
I don't, that question is really, that's not really who I am. I really see it as being more of a servant, and
Mm,
just
that's
I'm
good.
doing this to serve the Lord, not because I want this
This
hefty
title.
title.
Yeah.
So going back to who are you, when I was pondering that question, really it is that a child of God, and I was called by the Lord to do this, but also out of why I do what I do is
Mhm.
because of what He did for me and the place and
Mm.
the place that I was during those times in my life when my life didn't look so great and I was making all the wrong choices and I was, you know, evil was lurking everywhere. It
Yeah.
just didn't capture me, or didn't gobble me up, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I think that that's really when I think about, why I do what I do is it's really because of what He did for me.
Yeah.
And I don't deserve the life that
Mm.
I have today,
Yeah.
but I feel like the women that we serve, they deserve
Mhm.
this life. They deserve this they deserve this life and they deserve to know that they are also created to be daughters of the King. And so just
Mm.
getting them from where they're at to that point where they can see that,
Yeah.
to me, that's the ultimate healing and restoration that we strive for at Project to Restore.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
so good. I feel like you're dropping a lot of gems today. I hope you should be proud,
Oh,
Angie.
well, thank you.
You're gonna listen back and be like, "Oh, dang, I said some good stuff." But I love that you, have taken your calling and made it about other people, right? It's so easy to be like, this is who I am, this is what I do, God has given me all these gifts, and, yeah, they're gonna be about me, right? And so I love that you have gone into very dark places that many people would not go to and taken on that responsibility and say, "Hey, like, you just mentioned it, like, you are the daughter of a king." And so, how and why do you pour into these women that have been through so many traumatic experiences? And that's a weight load,
Mm,
right? It's so easy to, like, take that home and be like, "Oh my gosh, I just want you to come home with me,
mhm,
and we can just get away together, and, like, I wanna pour into you." And so I'm sure there's, like, strategy around that, making sure you're not, like, belittling them, but not giving them too much, but making them work for each other. There's a lot of, like, mindset stuff, it sounds like, with
mhm,
this work. But to you, it's something you're very passionate about.
mhm. Yeah, I would, in terms of the strategy, one of the things that as the founder and executive director, God laid this on my heart,
Yeah.
but I was not equipped to do this work. I
Mhm.
mean, in a sense,
Yeah.
I'm equipped. I have the compassion and I have the heart,
Mhm.
and I had the vision for the project to restore, but I wasn't someone who had a background in therapy or trauma strategies. I didn't
Mhm.
know what the
Yeah.
dissociating identity disorder. I didn't I haven't struggled with depression. So there are so many
Mhm.
parts and aspects of the women that we serve that I have not been where they've been.
Yeah.
So I can say that for me, it's
But that didn't stop you.
no, it didn't stop me.
Yeah.
And that's why I just always say that God kind of must have pushed me out because I really sometimes feel like, and in my prayers, I said to him,
Mhm.
I can't do this alone.
Mm.
And I can't do this. And I've always gone back to the book of Nehemiah.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes back just to, he said, rebuild the ancient ruins, which
Mhm.
I look at these women's lives as the ancient ruins
Yes.
and go and do that. But he put others in the place.
Mhm.
He had the whole community build the wall.
Right.
And that's what I see in terms of Project to Restore. It's the staff that we have, our volunteers,
Mhm.
those who we're still looking for today who would love to serve these women. And
Definitely.
those skills and talents and degrees and all of that can be put together to basically rebuild these ancient ruins that they have. So I think that um, I wouldn't say that I could tell you that I have a strategy other than I just know that faith is the ultimate component.
Mhm.
I know that it's only a part of it,
Mhm.
but it's the missing piece many times when women have gone through programs, and if they don't have that aspect, it's
Yeah.
not complete. So, and we don't, we invite women to come to Project to Restore, whether they have faith or not. They know that
Right.
there's going to be that faith component, but I can tell you
Yeah.
that whether they're mad at God or not, which I can understand why they might be,
Yeah.
wherever they're at, they've chosen to come to a faith-based restoration home, so they're
Mm,
hungry for it and
definitely.
they want it.
They
So
know it.
mhm.